Hi, I'm Gina Perkes, and today I'm in my longarm studio, and I'm going to share with you my technique for eliminating the need to backtrack. I call it backtrack cutbacks, and it's really cool because a lot of quilters try to avoid backtracking since it has a tendency to create thread buildup, and sometimes it's difficult to stay right on top of your line. So with this technique, not only do you eliminate that, but you also get secondary patterns as well that can be very cool and really neat. So I'm excited to show you this. I know you're gonna love it. This is a giant dahlia quilt, and a giant dahlia quilt has many different sections, and what I've chosen to do is create different quilting patterns within each of the different sections. This section in particular, I chose to incorporate curved cross-hatching. Now, I didn't want to have any backtracking in this design because what happens is you end up with thread buildup or stitches that are imperfect because it's difficult to stay right on top of that line. So what I've done is I've created secondary patterns along this edge and along this edge. This section is within this segment that I can then travel. So that's going to basically be my open road, so that as I get to a stopping point and need to travel down to a new starting point, rather than traveling along my previous stitching line, I'm going to travel with the addition of a filler design. So that is the finished product, and now I'm going to show you how to stitch it. So you can see here that I've gone ahead and marked my cross-hatching design. And now it's time to create that open road that I can stitch from one stopping point to a new starting point. I'm going to show you a couple of different variations, and I'm using just a piece of template here so that I can create kind of a shape that gives it a little bit of a secondary border design, if you will. Now you can get as creative as you want to with this, or you can simply give it a straight border. Now, if you're doing a quilt that has alternating blocks, you can also utilize the neighboring blocks for your travel. So I'm going to show you a fancy border, and then on this edge, we're going to pretend that this is a neighboring border that's going to give us that traveling space. And here we go. I'm generally going to create my square frame first. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch that square frame. This is going to kind of stabilize the block for me. I do go ahead and mark every single straight line in my cross-hatching, or in my curved cross-hatching, it would be curved lines. I do like to mark the lines because it gives my eye a good road map and it keeps my designs accurate. Now, I'm going to travel now from my stopping point to my new starting point, which is right here. And if you're just new to learning this technique, you can even give yourself little reference points so that you know where you're headed. And always look ahead as you're quilting so that you don't become fixated on the needle. So I'm just going to use a very simple filler that I'm pretty sure most of you are familiar with. This is just your basic stipple. And that's going to take me to my new starting point. Now I can stitch this straight line. I now end up at another stopping point. So again, we're pretending this is our neighboring block. Okay, so we're going to use that space then to travel over to our next starting point. And we are ready to stitch our second straight line. And again, back to a new stopping point and heading to a new starting point. Now I can kind of come on back and fill in the rest of this decorative frame as I'm kind of working my way over to that new starting point. What this is going to do is give me that really pretty secondary pattern going on here, and it's going to kind of flatten this shape and then direct our attention kind of to our cross hatching. So they're going to kind of work hand in hand and work together on creating a very pretty quilting design. So I'm just going to kind of continue on in this fashion, and you can see that I'm just kind of using those spaces as my open road to travel. So now you have a way to eliminate your backtracking for any of your cross-hatching projects. So I'm a Gamble girl, as many of you may know, and my Gamble Vision 2.0 has a mode called Coast Regulate. And this mode, I feel like it was almost just made for this technique. What's so cool about it is that I can be in regulated mode, and you can see that I keep my stitches pretty close together, 15 stitches per inch. And I can set the machine so that when I reach a speed of 15, it's going to switch over into the manual mode for me automatically. And when I'm doing my filler designs, that's what I want to be in. It's easier to regulate my stitches, and I can get into more of a rhythm. So this is the mode that I choose when I am doing my backtrack cutback technique.